There is an opinion that the United States and Russia are separated by several thousand kilometers. In fact, we are much closer to each other than we can seem. In the middle of the Bering Strait are the Diomede Islands. The island of Ratmanov is Russian, its brother, the island of Krusenstern, belongs to the Americans. The distance between them is only about 4 kilometers. Today you will find out why it will take a whole day to overcome them. What is an ice curtain and how do local people live in a changing climate? Eskimos began to populate the Diomede Islands over 3,000 years ago. The honor of discovering these places for the inhabitants of the Old World belongs to the famous Russian traveler Semyon Desnev. In 1648, he discovered the strait between Asia and America, later named after Bering. In addition, Desnev reported on the 2 islands located there. One of them was found in 1728 by the expedition of Vitus Bering. Both were mapped a little later, in 1732. They received their modern Russian names at the beginning of the 19th century, thanks to the lieutenant of the fleet of the Russian Empire Otak Sibulo. In 1867, Alexander II sold Alaska to the Americans, because at that time we believed that there was little sense in these lands, and a lot of money was spent on their maintenance, and in general, extra gold would not hurt. From the deal with the United States, we received mere pennies, $7 million. By comparison, one single 3-story building in downtown New York, built in 1872, known as Tweeds Court, cost the New York State Treasury almost twice as much as the US government did all of Alaska. At the same time, the area of Alaska is slightly smaller than the territory of Libya, which ranks 16th among the largest countries in terms of area. After the sale of Alaska, the state border began to pass between the Diomede Islands. But at first these changes did not bother the locals too much. Residents of the Bering Strait region have always considered themselves one people. Until 1948, families living on different islands rode to visit each other without any problems. After the Second World War, relations between the USSR and the United States deteriorated and the border was closed. As is often the case in such cases, ordinary people have suffered greatly because of politics. The military settled on Ratmanov Island, and the civilian population had to move to Siberia. Naturally, none of those in power were interested in their consent. As a result, the border was nicknamed the Ice Curtain, by analogy with the Iron Curtain, a term that became popular thanks to Churchill and marked the beginning of the Cold War. But as the years passed, the so-called Ice Curtain began to gradually melt. On August 7, 1987, the American swimmer Lynn Cox, who had previously managed to swim the English Channel, the Strait of Magellan and round Cape Hope, covered the distance from the American island to the island belonging to the USSR. The water temperature at the time of its swim was only 6 degrees. The brave athlete was accompanied by the residents of Alaska on kayaks. She conquered this path in 2 hours, with which the presidents of 2 states congratulated her, Mikhail Gorbachev and Ronald Reagan. Lynn Cox is often called a symbol of the end of the Cold War. In 1989, the countries signed an agreement on mutual travel of residents of the Bering Strait region. The Ice Curtain finally collapsed only in 2015, when the United States complied with all the formalities. Under this agreement, the indigenous peoples of Alaska could visit relatives in Chukotka and vice versa. To go on a trip, one had to receive an invitation from relatives in the designated area. It was allowed to stay at a party for no more than 90 days. It is difficult to say how things are in 2021, since there is no mention of this in the media. As mentioned earlier, the islands of Diomede are separated by a truly ridiculous distance, some 3,750 meters. But if you want to feel like a time traveler, then overcoming them is an excellent way to do it. The fact is that the islands are separated by the international date line and are in different time zones. The time difference is 21 hours, with us ahead of the Americans. Therefore, Ratmanov Island is sometimes called the Island of Tomorrow, and the island of Krusenstern is called the Island Yesterday. This curious fact became widely known to foreign viewers in March 2021, when TikTok blogger under the nickname Lao Bondru posted a video in which he explains how you can quickly get from Russia to the United States on foot. However, here he lied a little. Due to climate change, hard ice does not form between the islands as it used to. He also talked about the time difference. The post went viral and garnered millions of views. After that, many mass media wrote about it. This was a real discovery for the Americans. The unusual feature of the islands gives room for imagination. For example, you can celebrate your birthday twice a year. And you can also celebrate the coming of the new year on Ratmanov Island, and then go back in time and celebrate again on Krusenstern Island. It's just a pity that it's not so easy to move between them. Now there is no permanent population on Ratmanov Island, only the military. The first detachment of border guards arrived here in 1941. A wooden house of 6 rooms, a warehouse and a bathhouse for them were brought by steamer from Vladivostok along with food, clothing and weapons. Life in these parts is harsh. Winter lasts 9 months. Moreover, one has to endure not only very low temperatures, but also the strongest winds. In addition, the island is shrouded in thick fog 300 days a year. Because of him, helicopters are rare guests here. They fly only once every 2 months to deliver food and mail. Only contractors serve in the unit, and they have the main benefits of civilization, a TV, a telephone, and so on. There is no military on Krusenstern Island, or as the Americans call it, Little Diomede Island. There is only one settlement here, which is also called Diomede. When you see this settlement from above, you get the feeling that this is one of the most secluded places on the planet. It is home to a modest size of the Eskimo community, numbering just over 100 people. Today, there are about 30 buildings on the island, including residential buildings built mainly in the 1970s and 1980s. But despite its modest appearance, the settlement has a laundry room, a medical office, located on the top floor of the same building. There is also a school with a classroom overlooking the Russian island. There is a library, a helipad and a satellite dish for TV, telephone, fax and internet access. Store supplies on the island are limited to small quantities of food, drinks, clothing, firearms, ammunition and fuel. Anything that cannot be bought in a local store must be ordered by mail from Anchorage, which does not arrive very often in winter. As in many other Alaska native settlements, the import and sale of alcohol is prohibited. Electricity is provided by diesel generators, and water for winter use is taken from a mountain source, then processed and stored in a huge reservoir. Due to the permafrost, laying the pipeline underground is difficult, so residents must manually transport the water. Work on the island is mainly limited to the settlement, post office, school, medical office. Despite high food prices, Eskimos, already accustomed to store-bought food, are less dependent on hunting and gathering. Still, some collect the eggs of the guillemot, a seabird widespread in the northern hemisphere. Eskimos hunt walruses and make souvenirs that are popular in mainland Alaska. The average annual family income on the island is about $25,000, which is not that much due to the high prices and dependence of the inhabitants of the island on the imported food. Let's say a pack of regular laundry detergent costs $45. In general, life on the island is not only difficult but also expensive. Recently, climate change has been adding to the problem for the Eskimos. It gets warmer every year, which is why the traditional way of life suffers. Islanders, especially young people, began to slowly think about resettlement, but despite this, travelers note that locals seem to be happier people than many residents of large cities. That's all, friends. Share this video with your friends if you like it. Rate it like or dislike. And also write your opinion in the comments. See you later.